So welcome back, dear learners, to chapter 7 of your book from NCERT. This is chapter 2 of the unit 3rd of the book, part A. This is one of the biggest unit, as I told you, and this chapter particularly carries again 7 out of 20 marks from the entire paper. So it includes just 4 topics that you need to command, and with 2 questions given from the sample question paper this year. The topics being leadership, its various types, the process of communication and its types as formal and informal, then Maslow's need hierarchy theory of motivation, and another types of incentives as a biggest motivator. So let us see, students, that what these topics have to tell from the book. Now, if we see this NCERT, students, these types of leadership have been discussed in great detail, where you see that there are 3 kinds of leaders which can be remembered as A, D and L, where A stands for autocratic leadership or authoritarian leadership. This type of leadership is also called the dogmatic leadership, where the leader acts as a dictator and he commands over his subordinates. He expects his subordinates to completely obey his orders without any kind of contradiction. He is referred to as the dogmatic leader who does not want to change or wish to be contradicted. He uses either punishment or reward as depending upon the type of result, if the people are obeying or not. And this kind of leadership has a very quick nature, because he is not concerning with others for the ideas or opinions, and he is just giving his own decisions, but very likely it is to be followed by the subordinates in the present era. So with this, the second form being D, representing the democratic leadership, or we also call it participative or people-centered leadership. This can also be called as people-centered leadership, where the decisions are taken with combined views of all, and the plans are developed in consultation with, and decisions are developed in consultation with the subordinates. So here the leader asks the subordinates and encourages them to participate in the process of decision making. And these days, nowadays, you can see that this type of a leadership is more common, and here everyone respect each other's opinion, and with the support of the subordinates, the leader is able to perform the duties and accomplish the organizational objectives. The third kind of leadership that has been talked about in the book starts with the letter L, students, where this L represents laissez-faire. Laissez-faire is a French phrase that means that allowed to do. So this type of leadership, the leader believes in free rein leadership, where he allows the people under him to work on their own, does not believe in the use of power, and rather he gives them high degree of independence to formulate their own objectives and achieve them in their own ways. So here this kind of leadership is feasible only when the subordinates are highly motivated by self, and they are self-disciplined as well, where they can use this freedom to work positively for the development and achievement of organizational goals. So students, whenever you get this question for 3 marks, always make appropriate diagrams to explain the different types of leadership as shown. Now the next in line is the process of communication. This communication process plays a major role because let us see a few definitions of this process as given by different leaders. It is sum of all things one person does or he wants to create an understanding in the minds of other. So this is the value of this process of communication by Louis Allen. Then it is also called the transfer of information from sender to the receiver. It is also a process where people create and share information with one another to reach a common understanding. So these definitions you should be mindful of, and you can use them while explaining the process of communication. Now a very wonderful chart has been given in NCERT that shows the entire process of communication, students. You need to go through this carefully. So here it has been shown that there is a sender who sends the message in an encoded manner through using a media. This is the sender sending the message or the information which he wants to convey. Using a media, we can say it can either be the print media or we can say the electronic media, and through this he sends the message ultimately to the receiver sitting at the other end, who decodes that to get the message delivered. Once the sender sends the message in an encoded format using the media, it is decoded right there by the receiver to understand the message, and after decoding, the receiver again sends a feedback that yes, he has received this message in the particular format to the sender, and this is how this process of communication deems to be complete. So feedback is an important part at the end of this communication process. Always remember this, and whenever you get the question on this, don't forget to make the flow chart. Similarly, there is another question in the book, in this sample question paper, students, where it has been asked to differ between the formal and informal channels of communication. As you can see, this question is on the leadership, the concept of leadership being discussed, where we have to give two situations in which autocratic leadership style is effective. So autocratic is definitely effective when we want to get the work done in a quicker time, because direct decisions are taken here, quick decisions, and whenever the setup is quite small, that autocratic leadership is quite feasible. Then the question is regarding concept of communication, as we have just discussed, and it talks also about the formal and informal communication method. So the formal channel of communication, students, necessarily makes use of chain of command, a unity of command, or we can say the scalar chain of the organization, where the communication flows in a proper order from superior to subordinates. However, in the informal channel, there is no such chain of command, no hierarchy to be followed, and everybody communicates with anyone who he or she feels like, just to complete the psychological satisfaction in the minds and to express the ideas and views with the friends or relatives. So these are the two methods of communication. I hope the topics of leadership and communication are very clear to you. So next in line, students, is the theory of motivation and Maslow's need hierarchy theory, as represented by this pyramid. And whenever you get a question on this, you must draw this pyramid. So an easier way to learn it will be learning the letters P, S, B, E, S. Now, P here stands for physiological need, as seen in this flowchart. So, physiological, sometimes students also write it as psychological, but psychological is a wrong word. Physiological का मतलब basic जो needs होती है, रोटी, कपड़ा, मकान, ये fulfill होनी चाहिए. मैस्लो ने कहा था कि सबसे पहले level की जो need है वो रोटी, कपड़ा, मकान है, physiological needs. Then safety and security needs is on the second level, जहाँ पर financial as well as फिजिकल सेफ्टी एंड सिक्योरिटी की बात कही गई है. द थर्ड लेवल ऑफ नीड इज बिलोंगिंगनेस, और वी कैन ऑल्सो राइट इट एज एफिलिएशन नीड्स, द नीड टू एफिलिएट और टू रिकॉग्नाइज एज अ मेंबर ऑफ द सोसाइटी, एंड वी कैन कॉल इट ऑल्सो एज सोशल नीड्स of an organism. Then the next level is esteem needs, where there is the concept of self-respect and respect in the society that people expect from others. And the highest level of need is self-actualization need with the letter S, that also denotes the self-introspection or the ability to know oneself and to find oneself in its true sense. So this is the 5 kinds of needs that are given by Maslow's need hierarchy theory and through this pyramid. So this physical basic needs starts from the very low level, that is physiological need, which meets up the hunger needs of the individual. Safety security leads to the stability needs. Then affiliation or belongingness leads to friendship and social needs. Then esteem needs is respect or status in the society, and self-actualization needs is nothing but that of self-fulfillment into an individual. So these are the needs, and it starts from basic and move towards the higher levels. As one basic need is achieved, the individual moves on to the higher fulfillment of the higher level of need, as told by Maslow, Abraham Maslow's need hierarchy theory. This is very important, students, and you must remember it, because there have been some questions in the exam. In this year's sample paper itself, we can see a few questions related to this. So this is a case-based question that has directly come, and let us read it. The question says, on the basis of understanding of Maslow's need hierarchy theory of motivation, identify the human need that Bhanupriya has recognized in order to make the subordinates act towards the achievement of organizational goals. So in this particular case study, which need of Maslow has been talked about that we are supposed to tell? So we have options like PSBES, and we have to take one option from these. So when Bhanupriya joined as a technical head of Logic Lotus Innovators, she was keen on increasing the productivity and profitability of the organization. However, she observed that the employees were demotivated as no attention was given to their work. Also, the workers were given little freedom to make the decisions. So Bhanupriya has joined the team as a leader and technical head, and she is feeling that the workers working under her are demotivated and they are given very little freedom. So she has decided to stimulate the employees by giving each worker t-shirts with their names on it. She also decided to include the workers in committees, in the work committees. So this helped in improving the performance, has finally lifted up. So now we can say, students, that it is not the physiological need that has been talked about. It is security and safety is also not there. Belongingness, we can't say, because t-shirts with their names simply represents their esteem needs, that their work is recognized and the status is given in the organization to the workers. So here the Maslow's theory of motivation, the human need that has been talked about is status or esteemed needs, where one feels to get some respect from the society at a status in the organization and feel respected. The other question says, identify and explain the two incentives that have been provided by the Bhanupriya to improve the performance of the employees. So regarding these incentives, we have another set of video, that is the types, discussing on the types of incentives, which can either be financial or non-financial. Coming to the last segment of this chapter, students, types of incentives, where incentives are of two types, financial and non-financial. Financial मतलब monetary benefits जो कि एक employee को दिए जाते हैं जिससे कि वो और बेहतरीन काम करे, और non-financial जिसमें कि फैसिलिटीज दी जाती है अपार्ट फ्रॉम मनी, जिससे कि वो प्रमोट हो, मोटिवेट हो और काम अच्छे से अच्छा कर सके. सो इस इन फाइनेंशियल बेनिफिट्स दे आर 7 इन नंबर इन टोटलिटी. यू शुड रिमेंबर इट एज PPPP BRS. BRS बैंक रिकंसिलिएशन स्टेटमेंट, इससे आपको याद रहेगा, और PPPP. सो 4 P's से है आपके फर्स्ट पेमेंट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ बेसिक पे एंड अलाउंसेस, जो एक मिनिमम पेमेंट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ वेज दी जाती है एम्प्लॉय को, या सैलरी के फॉर्म में बेसिक सैलरी. देन नेक्स्ट कम्स प्रोडक्टिविटी लिंक्ड वेजेस, जहां पे उसके वेजेस को लिंक अप किया जाता है उसकी प्रोडक्टिविटी के साथ, जितना ज्यादा प्रोडक्शन उतने ज्यादा वेजेस. थर्ड थिंग इज रिगार्डिंग प्रॉफिट शेयरिंग. समटाइम्स इन ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस प्रॉफिट इज ऑल्सो शेयर्ड विद द एम्प्लॉयज सो एज टू मोटिवेट देम टू वर्क हार्डर एंड टू गेट मोर profits for the organization. The last point being perquisites. These are nothing but the different kinds of facilities in the form of medical, in the form of transportation, or maybe children education allowances that are provided to the employees to help him or her get motivated. From BRS, we can understand it as B for bonus, where bonus are not non-recurring types of monetary benefits which are not given regularly, but sometimes whenever organization achieves a particular degree of success, or maybe in terms on the occasions of festivals, these bonuses are distributed. Then retirement benefits includes all those things that are given to an employee on his retirement, like leave encashment. Students, here ESOP means ESOP, employee stock option plan, where employees are given a partnership in the business and they are liable to get profits of the business as their share, being the stockholders of the business, so as they motivate to work better for this. Now, the next kind of incentives are non-financial in nature or non-monetary, which you can learn as SSCCEERP, where SS represents status and security. In status, we have to talk about the job positions or maybe the designations that are allotted to the employees to help them gain a status or a sense of respect from the organization. Then in security, it is talked about the safety and mental stability that is provided by securing the job of the employee in the business, in the organization. Then CC stands for climate and career advancement. This C represents to give a very peaceful and congenial environment to work. At the workplace, there must be hygienic conditions, there must be cordial relations between the employees and other workers and the managers as well. Harmony, not discord, and the principle of paternalistic style and mental revolution, all these applies to get a better climate for work. Career advancement necessarily means that there has to be some opportunities for the employees to advance in their careers by getting promotions or getting up in the hierarchical chain. Then empowerments are given to the employees by providing them with necessary skills and trainings at the job place to upgrade their skills and empowered. They also feel empowered when they are given the decision making power through delegation, or we can say decentralization and dispersal of authority throughout the organization. When we talk of enrichment, students, it is necessarily relating to the job. The job activities should be so designed that it itself becomes the motivator for the employee, and they work harder and they feel good when they are doing their job. Recognition programs includes all wherever the pictures are seen for the employees, their names are put in the notice boards or billboards of the organization. Sometimes when the t-shirts get printed on their name and designation holders, the tags, and sometimes on certificates and awards when they are provided at a public place in front of everyone, they act as great motivator as employee recognition. The last point being participation, where employees are given freedom to participate in the decision making as well as in the work activities of the organization through formation of committees that are created and the in chargeships of different committees that they are allotted to, so as to make the organization work smoother and in a better manner. See the type of question that has appeared in the sample question paper from this segment, and the second part of this case study that we discussed just now, that Bhanupriya joined as the technical head and she has given some benefits to the organization and its committee members to enhance the performance and to motivate and stimulate her employees. So we have to identify and explain the two incentives that have been given by Bhanupriya to the workers. So the first one is no doubt giving each worker t-shirts with their names printed on it. So this is directly pointing towards employee recognition that came in the form of printed t-shirts on their name. She also decided to include these workers in the work committees. So by including the workers in the work committees, she has allowed participation of the workers in different fields in the organization activities. So these two concepts of non-financial incentives as R and P have been talked about in this particular case study. So I hope the concept is very clear to you. Thank you. This is another important segment from this chapter, students, from one of the elements of directing, that is communication, where we are going to talk about few barriers that lead to effective communication, and effective communication gets disrupted due to the presence of these barriers. So you must remember the barriers as POPs, 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 where P standing for psychological barrier, O for organizational barriers, P for personal barriers, and S standing for semantic barriers. Now, if we talk about psychological barriers in particular, they are denoted by dear, the word dear. D represents distrust, जहाँ पे भरोसा नहीं होता बातों में, इसलिए हम बातों को अच्छे से सुन नहीं सकते, समझ नहीं सकते. इवैल्यूएशन के केस में हम पहले से ही कुछ इवैल्यूएट करके रख लेते हैं. Sometimes we call it pre-judgments or pre-assumptions that lead to barriers. Then attention का होना बुरी बात नहीं है, but नहीं होना बुरी बात है. Due to lack of proper attention to the topic being explained or the communication process, we sometimes act as a barrier. These are all the barriers at mental level of the sender and the receiver. So that is why they are referred to as the psychological barriers. The last one being lack of retention, retaining the information that have been passed from sender to the receiver. If we don't retain that information properly, अगर हम उसको grasp नहीं कर पाते, रख नहीं पाते अपने तक, तो भी ये एक barrier बन जाता है. Then next is barriers coming from organization side, which can be due to its policies. जो general guidelines है, जो govern करती है organization को, उनमें कुछ खामियां हो सकती हैं जिसके कारण बैरियर्स क्रिएट होते हैं. समटाइम्स रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आल्सो एक्ट एज बैरियर्स. देन द डिफरेंट जॉब पोजीशंस और द स्टेटस and hierarchical chain can also become the organization's barrier. Then in structure also there can be some complexity, functional structure, divisional structure. We have read about all this. Divisions में आपने देखा कि बहुत सारे divisions हैं और वो highly complex structure है जिसके कारण एक barrier create हो सकता है. Then facilities is no doubt relating to the lack of maybe the suggestion box in the organization, or maybe there are different facilities which are not provided so that the employees don't feel free to communicate. Then amongst the personal barrier, students, you have to just remember I see, you see. मैंने देखा, तुम देखो. I see, you see, lack of incentives. कई बार ये दोनों barriers subordinates के level पे होते हैं जहाँ पर subordinate को एक incentive नहीं मिलता कि वो अपनी बात को आगे रखे. There is no promotion of his ideas or incentives. Then sometimes he is lacking confidence to put forward his or her views. Then unwillingness, this comes generally from the superiors end, जहाँ पे वो अपनी job position को hold करने की वजह से they are generally not wanting to communicate with their lower levels. And challenge to the authority, this is also due to the hierarchical position that they hold, that they are not willing to communicate with the lower levels of management. Then semantic barrier is the last type, where you can easily remember as get jam, where G stands for gestures. When we talk, we are giving out some hand actions or maybe some actions due to the body language of our, when we are communicating. So there might be some faults in the body language to miscommunicate. The expressions, mainly we are talking about the facial expressions that do not convey the message which we are trying to deliver. Then translations can be faulty as well, where one mean the same word has been taken differently by the two people. Then jargons refer to the technical words that are involved in a particular field of study and which can be understood only by the persons relating to that field of study. तो ये jargons भी एक barrier create करते हैं. Assumptions can also be there, that beforehand only we have assumed something in mind, the other people has assumed something different, and there is a lack of proper communication between the two. Then due to the different meanings of the same words, with in the minds of sender and the receiver, also there can be some barriers in the form of semantic barriers. So just remember, students, for barriers to effective communication, POPs, POPS, where psychological includes DEAR, organizational includes PRSSF, personal includes ICUC, and semantic includes GET JAM.